It looks like some people have data mined some extra regions in New World. Now I am speculating that these are actually going to be coming in the expansion, but I don't know if that is like wrong or if it's actually going to be true, but I'm going to tell you why I actually think it is true. So let's jump in and show you what we're talking about. So the Vanguard Master on Reddit posted this image. And there's a couple of interesting things. By the way, all the red is actually just where there's like actually a structure or something like that. And this here in the top left is Outpost Rush. So there's a couple of things to quickly unpack. It looks like they may be making another Outpost Rush map, because I don't think that's the arena or anything, and it's sort of similar-esque sized. So that could be on the agenda, but we're not talking about that right now. The important thing to look at here is the Dunwood settlement, which is just to the southwest of Brimstone Sands, and whatever the zone that is above Morningdale here in the northeast. Now what does this really show us? Absolutely nothing. It just shows us that 2 zones are being worked on. We sort of know that more zones are going to be worked on. There's nothing crazy there. It's interesting that we may actually know the name of it, that this zone is called Dunwood, and that's completely fine. It's a reasonable name, no reason to think it's anything crazy. Obviously we don't know the zone name before or above Morningdale. So yes, we have 2 zones data mined, and that's interesting just to see the map where it might be. This one doesn't have many settlements right now or many structures, whereas the Morningdale one is sort of getting a little bit more. Perfect, fine, reasonable. And then I want to draw your attention to this fall release here, which we now know that season 3 sounds like it's going to be combined with the expansion. So everything in that fall category sounds like it's going to be at the expansion time, which will either be late September or early October, we think. Now, one noticeable absence on here is the fact that it doesn't actually mention any new zones. It talks about a zone transformed. Well, we now know for a fact that a zone transformed is related to First Light. Now, it is my firm belief that actually we are going to get more zones, and the ones that have just been data mined are probably the new zones that we're going to get. Is it on the roadmap? Absolutely not. So what makes me so sure? That's a little bit of a trickier question. It sort of boils down to the gear score increase or the gear rework and mounts. So I think for the gear score increase, considering we've already had Brimstone Sands, it would now sort of feel weird to me to have an expansion without zones. So I sort of can't imagine that not being the case either, just because of the gear score increase. And this zone transformed, we can say with a high degree of certainty at this point that it's going to be First Light, because they have this First Light retraction. What they're doing here at the minute, First Light is basically going into construction. You can think of it like that. It's being taken away from the game. You're not going to be able to get in there for a season. And I think in part that's to sort of build up hype, but I also think that's maybe so that they can work on it in maybe without actually affecting the live game. They can sort of maybe push a couple of things to live and see how it goes. But that's why I think we're getting that First Light retraction. However, I don't think just having First Light being reworked is really going to be cause enough for just the expansion. I think that will mean we are going to also get new zones. Again, I could be wrong. Somewhere that I've said a couple of times, but I'm going to come out and say it here. I'm pretty convinced that the First Light retraction and First Light zone is being transformed probably into a permanent PvP zone. I don't really see the point of them just reworking an existing zone rather than adding a new zone. The box price would look more impressive if you just simply added a new zone. So I think First Light is being reworked into a PvP zone, maybe like Cyrodiil from Elder Scrolls Online, something where it's like permanently PvP. Maybe there's going to be like a wall around it and it's going to be like a fight for Eternum or something like that. Obviously, I could just be on some serious degrees of copium there, but I firmly believe that's likely. Because what I don't think we were ever going to get is like a rotating PvP zone. I don't think that makes any sense. So I think literally just designing a pure PvP zone would probably be the most beneficial, and they may have done that because of the community feedback. At least I'm hoping. That's my prediction. That's what I think we're getting. I could be wrong. Now back to why I think we are actually going to get more zones than just a zone transformed. And the main thing is probably mounts. So we know mounts are coming. We know they're on the expansion because it says so right here in black and white. There's no reason to think that's not going to happen. Now, they always said that we would get mounts even before the game went live. This is an interview from November 2020 with the WCCFtech.com website. That's pretty much nearly a year before the game actually went live. And the question was asked, are mounts on the table for the future, or are you firmly against that? Well, it actually says strongly and I can't read, but never mind. And Scott Lane, one of the head people at Amazon working on New World, says this: I think right now our world isn't the size that warrants mounts. When we do get there in the life game, that's going to happen at some point. We'll add mounts when we feel players will benefit from them and we can do them in a real cool way. So we already know there's going to be like a profession and stuff like that tied to it. Sounds really cool, but the key thing that I want to talk about is this phrase here. Right now our world isn't the size that warrants mounts. Well, what if they transform a zone and have brimstone sands? We literally have one extra zone more than launch. To me, that doesn't sound like a significant reason to make mounts. It could be that maybe they were just saying this and maybe it's not going to be fully truthful, but I have no reason to think that. If I look at this statement and put it with the expansion, that's when we're actually going to get mounts, I think we're probably going to get more zones. It just sort of stands to reason to me. We have the data mining of extra zones. When else are you going to add zones if not an expansion? We have the gear score increase, which is pretty much a gear rework. We're not 100% sure how that's going to work. Then we have the fact that mounts are coming, and they spoke about how they would add mounts if there's a bigger world. Everything to me is just sort of setting itself up that we are going to get more zones. I think it just makes too much sense. And I think the reason that they didn't put it on the roadmap is that they want to surprise us. I think we're going to get a trailer for the expansion on June 8th with the Summer Games Fest. I think it's going to have new zones, maybe a new raid. They're going to announce the PvP zone perhaps, a new Outpost Rush map. Not saying that will actually come in the expansion, and probably a little bit more. Having now played Throne of Liberty, I think the New World expansion is a perfect opportunity for New World to come back and to truly shine in the genre. If they deliver on what I think they're going to deliver, we could be in for a great time, and if they don't, fair enough. But for me, Throne of Liberty is bad. I'm not interested in it anymore. You can check why on Jay Evenly if you've not kept up with that game. And I think the floor has been left open now for New World to come in and actually truly shine without major competition in this winter when it comes to the MMO genre, because Blue Protocol has been delayed till next year in the West. Throne of Liberty is looking pretty bad. Nothing else is really scheduled for this fall. I don't know why I just said fall, it's very American. Except New World's expansion. Probably Ashes of Creation Alpha too, but I'm not really worried about that. Amazon, New World, the floor is yours. Show me what you got. If you want to support me, you can either become a YouTube member or come and follow me over on Twitch. I've been playing Throne of Liberty recently, but I'm back to New World, baby, with renewed desire. What you should definitely do though is have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.